Hi, I'm Julie Stewart-Binks, joined by Peter Schrager, Olympia Michelle Kwan, and Hall of Fame figure skating coach Frank Carroll. Thank you so much for joining us here today. The ladies' competition begins on Wednesday with the short program. U.S. hopeful Gracie Gold takes the ice, who you coach. Who is her biggest competition heading into this?
Well, there are a number of wonderful girls in the competition. Yuna Kim, who is the defending Olympic champion from Korea. There's Mao Asada, who's been world champion from Japan. There's this little girl, Yulia, who is from Russia, who has won everything this year. And so she has some stiff competition.
In the team competition, Gracie finished second behind Yulia. There was a 12-point difference, but they had the same elements. They had both opened up with a triple Lutz triple toe combination and a double axel triple toe. But how is that? Why is there such a big gap between Gracie and Yulia?
Well, quite frankly, Michelle, I don't understand it because I feel like Gracie is equally as beautiful to watch as Yulia, and I think in the program component scores that reflect the way you perform and the way you do it, that she definitely was absolutely as good. So maybe this time around they will recognize that she is on a par with this little girl.
Frank, you started coaching Gracie in September. At the time, we expected her to be at Nationals, maybe the Olympics. 6 months later, working with you, she's not only won Nationals, but she is a gold medal hopeful. What have you done and what have you focused on as a coach to make her from a good skater to an amazing skater and actually put her in this position?
Well, first of all, you've got to understand that Gracie was taught very well by her previous coach, Alex, who was a great technician, and so she could jump and spin very beautifully. So my job was really to put the pieces together, to more or less be a groomer, to give her some psychology about how to run through a routine and how to win, and to try to smooth out everything, groom everything, make it a little more sophisticated, and keep her on track. So I'm kind of a packager as a coach, if you would say.
The closer, if you will. There it is.
Like you mentioned psychology. I started working with you since 11 years old, on to 21, and you always had words of wisdom. And especially the 6-minute warm-up, then before you take the ice, you always held my hand, and you always had something encouraging and kind of confidence booster. What are you going to say to Gracie? Do you plan anything, or is it just whatever comes out at the moment?
Well, I know what I like to say, and what I said to you, and which I can say to Gracie because she's very disciplined, is you go through this program every single day, you do it perfectly or you do it extremely well. So this is just another day at the ice rink. Go out there and do your program.
That's exactly what like got chills thinking about it. I'm getting nervous already.
Frank, you also coach Dennis Ten, who finished in the bronze medal in the men's, and you're also Evan Lysacek's coach. Watching the men go out there and a lot of the hopefuls and front runners falling, stumbling, I'm always going to look back at this Olympics as the great what if. What if Evan could have gone? As Evan's coach, how was it watching all those competitors out there knowing that if he was healthy, he could have competed for the gold?
Well, I think no one feels as terrible as Evan does because he desperately wanted to do this. But the philosophy of how to go about this is not rare, it's not a secret. You do your program every day, you stay in shape. What I noticed about the men is none of them did their program in practice. The only one who did their program actually was Dennis. And you see, you can't go 5 or 6 days at an Olympic site without running through and staying in shape. So, as we used to say, God does not come down from the sky and grant you a perfect program. You earn it.
Evan and I always joke about the Frank Carroll sayings. One would be, okay, I've done my duty for God and my country. At the end of the lesson, he'd skate off. And then he'd, good night, Gracie. Do you say that to Gracie? Good night, Gracie.
I don't know if she gets it. Because, Gracie Allen's been dead a long time, but I love that thing when they were on the show, when he would turn to her and say good night, Gracie. And she'd turn and say, good night, Gracie.
That's ironic now that can work for both what you were skating and for Gracie.
Happy bees are working bees, so keep on buzzing. I was like, okay, Frank.
Now, Frank, you've been in the sport for over 4 decades. How have you seen it change?
Actually, it's 5 decades.
5, okay, excuse me.
Or a century. Gracie said a century.
He's been teaching for a century, and I thought, wait a minute now. I know I'm old, but I'm not that old.
Yeah, how has it changed?
Well, I don't like the new scoring system. I mean, I'll stick my foot out and say that. I like the old scoring system because now it's too picky. I call it a scoring system of bean counters. You know, there's a jar and you keep putting beans in, and they kept counting how many beans they have. And I don't think figure skating really should be like that. I think you should look at it, enjoy it, and not worry about this element in this position. And you know, it's like spinning. What is a good spinner? Somebody who puts their, blade in their mouth, or or is it somebody who turns and revolves and blurs and has that ease on the blade where there's no friction and makes a blur spin? And so I have trouble with it.
Frank, I'd like to know, you said 5 decades in the sport. You've got Gracie Gold going, another competitor for gold. Do you still get butterflies in your stomach? Do you still get nervous? And how do you approach these after seeing all of these champion skaters, 3 world champions that you've coached?
Well, you know what? I don't really get the same amount of butterflies I did when I was younger, and I guess it's just through experience, and I know what will be, but I still care a lot. And they're like with Dennis, waiting for all those boys or men to skate and finish before we knew where he had come in. If we could win a bronze medal, we had to wait for like 11 skaters. And that's hard because towards the end, I kept thinking, oh my God, I think he's going to win a bronze medal. So, it's hard.
I remember, Peter, we used to, in the arena, check whose hands were more still.
Oh, I remember that. Oh my
I just had a flashback just a moment ago. I was like,
know. We used to do this and see whose hand was shaking.
Yeah. You were always very still, though.
Yeah, and usually we were very calm,
Yeah.
and it's hard to do that when an event is coming up and you're about to step on the ice. That's fun. I have to write that down. I like that.
You have to check Gracie's hand if her hands are
I'm sure
shaking.
she'll be pretty calm.
So what do you expect? Do you have any expectations for Gracie? Is it just go out there and do your best, or is it go there and go for the medal?
I don't want to talk about a medal with Gracie. I want her to skate well. I want her to show that she's going to be one of the best in the next Olympics, maybe. And so, yeah, I'd like her to win a medal. And of course, I think she has the ability to. But she also is young enough to go another 4 years. So I want her to skate well, make an impression, and put herself in a position that she'll be looked at in the next 4 years.
Frank, after coaching so many figure skaters and being at so many different events, what do you wish you knew when you first started that you know now?
Well, I know one thing. I can't teach everybody to jump. When I was a young coach, I thought, oh, this is easy. I'm going to teach them to do a double axel, or I'll make them jump, even though they look like they have, lead in their britches. But then I found out that I couldn't. And so I had to accept, a person's physical ability and what I could do with it. So, I think I became more analytical as the years went by.
There's a certain point that you can get to, but they have to get to as well.
Right. They have to have the goods that you can build on. And at the beginning, I thought, I can fix everybody. Well, I learned you can't.
Frank, I want to ask about the Iceberg Arena real quick. I mean, we go in there, the Russian skaters are on the ice. It is like a European soccer game. Everyone is going wild. And then when the Americans, the Japanese, it's silent. Does that affect the skaters? And do you think it affects the judges by any chance?
Well, I think it's an intimidation tactic which is being used, and I don't find it very comfortable. But then again, we've all talked about it before we got here, that this is the way it was going to be. And as to be a great champion, you have to be able to block out any kind of intimidation and work through it. So it's a little more than I expected. Like the other night, when Charlie and Merrill skated last, and they did this wonderful program, and then the Russians, who came in third in that team event, the place was falling apart. They were practically tearing down the rafters. And then for Charlie and Merrill, it was polite applause. And I thought, you know what? They're the best. They're the ones you should get excited about. So it's a little intimidating, but it's not like we didn't expect it.
But what do you say to Gracie? Coming off of the national championships where she had the standing ovation, and then going to the Olympic Games, it's like, no one's applauding for me. It must be hard. What do you say to Gracie?
Well, same thing kind of I said to you, I'm here for you. It's you and me against the world. We will communicate. We will do our thing. We're blocking out all this, peripheral noise and everything. And you depend on me and I'll depend on you and we'll do this together. And it's a tactic to block out all kind of distraction because there's lots at the Olympics.
That's why he's the best coach in the world.
It's true. Well, we wish both you and Gracie good luck going forward. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure.
It's been fun.